to the point. So it's a very direct, I think accurate, effective interpretation of the poem. And if someone had told you in September that you were going to be able to interpret a poem that well, I bet you wouldn't have believed it.
I've been here since almost the very beginning. I started in the Writing Center in, I think it was 1975. That's pretty close to the very beginning. And I was a receptionist. Yeah. And then when I got my master's, I thought, gee, I really like the work that they're doing here. 3 years later, I was the director and the chair. So I think I'm the only one who can say they went from receptionist to chair. My buddy John Spencer started the same day that I did. So the two of us grew up in the center.
My name is John Spencer, and I've been with the various iterations of the writing department because it started, when I started, it was called the Writing Workshop. It was in the Faculty of Arts, and that was in 1976. And my position now is I'm a senior lecturer in the writing department, and I teach in both the professional writing program and also I teach in the Writing Center. So when I started the Writing Workshop, it was unique in Canada, probably in North America at the time, because it was a standalone unit. It wasn't part of the of the English department as it originally briefly was. So this was very important because it meant we could hire people with all kinds of disciplinary backgrounds, not just English degrees.
I think at one time it was common for the Writing Center to try to recruit full-time faculty members from other departments to do some instruction in the Writing Center. My name is Ron Schiess. I've been working at the Writing Center for maybe 30 years. I'm not sure the exact amount of time. I came to York 40 years ago, but in the psychology department. Things happened that were interesting. The writing department developed out of a combination of the Writing Center in Faculty of Arts and essay writing center, programs in Atkinson College. We brought those together and were able to put it together as a department.
For the Atkinson situation, I think the change came along with the change in the demographics that were going to school in the evening. It was largely teachers and then other professionals, a lot of women who had never, their women weren't educated the way we're now accustomed. So often their brothers had gone to university, but their parents hadn't sent them, or they married, they had established families. So we really had a very diverse population. And so as people came, they needed particular kinds of writing support. And the big difference, I think, with the Faculty of Arts Writing Center for a long time was that we did a first come, first serve, whereas for many, many years, they assigned students to particular tutors and so on. But we didn't have the resources for that. Change in the demand for evening and part-time education. We have far more international students, and of course they needed ESL support. And but other than that, the assignments, the challenge of the assignments remain the same. We also used to do workshops for faculty on what good assignments are and so on. So we did a lot of the work that now the Teaching Commons does, but we did it for the Atkinson faculty. We had workshops that were in Admin Studies 1000 on how to do case writing, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know that the nature of our work changed. The population shifted as the population shifted. Anyway, that all came to an end in 2008.
Years ago. That's when Atkinson and the Faculty of Arts came together and created the Faculty of Liberal Arts and Professional Studies. And therefore, Atkinson Writing Programs and the Center for Academic Writing also joined as one, and we became the writing department.
All this space was entirely redesigned a couple of years ago. So, wow, it's been fun. We didn't have like big TVs and meeting rooms when we started out, I'm telling you.
I think we've been in 4 different places in our history. I wasn't in the first place, but I was told recently that it was on this floor, here, first. When I joined in 1976, which was 9 years after it was founded, it was on the 7th floor of the Ross Building. And then we moved for quite a number of years over to Stone College. And then we moved here.
Before the Writing Center, we had a writing program, which consisted of a particular course called English 1400. Ultimately, it was called English 1400, and that started in the early 70s. I wasn't the coordinator of it, but that started in 1974, maybe. In 1983, I was hired full-time. Before that, it was contract. And then we were given the option, we were given the go-ahead to start also an essay tutoring center. We continued also with all the writing courses that we had at Atkinson. So I was director from almost entirely from 1983 until the amalgamation.
But when they merged and everything all came together in this beautiful floor that they have now, they still continue the service from 8:30 to 7, so which is amazing, and including Saturdays. So there's a Saturday day that the center's open for students that don't have the time coming during the week, for mature students that work full time, that also need the service, that should use the service. I think everyone should use it.
Where we are now, the 3rd floor of the Ross Building, and it had been renovated to some extent from its previous usage, but we were constrained to a fairly small part of the 3rd floor. Just recently, just a few years ago, we actually were able to take another large portion of the floor and turn it into part of our offices.
I think the fact that we are here on the 3rd floor of the Ross Building has made an enormous difference. We're close access for students who are in the Ross Building. They know much more about us. On the 3rd floor, it's easy access in an elevator. We have facilities for all kinds of activities now, and every year we seem to add something new.
Now that it's all in one central location, it makes it a lot easier for students to. It's there, 3rd floor. 3rd floor of Ross. And that's it. Yes, that was the biggest. And prior to that, we didn't have online applications. So students would have to come in, fill out a paper application, we'd review it, whereas now they can just go right online.
Beginning of last year, we piloted a new online instruction platform. So students can now have their appointments remotely, and there's a video element, a document sharing and editing space that's collaborative, and a chat menu in case the audio is knocked off, where we want to share links to online resources.
I remember getting a phone call from a mother of a student. It was recommended in her class that she come to the Writing Center. And the mother called to make sure that no one else would know about the student having to come to the Writing Center. And so I tried to disabuse her of the idea that it was a punishment and that we were here to help, and that there certainly wasn't any stigma attached to it at all. And in fact, the wisest students seemed to know about the center.
Years I've had to reassure many students who believe that if they are there, it's because they're a bad student. And I've had to just try to convince them that it's not a remedial service. It's for students who want to better their writing.
But in fact, we see a lot of really excellent students. The next one I see after I talk to you, amazing student, gets really good grades, amazing way she talks about the material and so forth. But she comes because she sees the one-to-one as it's a place where she can talk through her ideas.
Tearing down those walls between students and academic writing and academic culture, that in many ways is working against the kind of gatekeeping that happens in classrooms, where students are asked to write as a matter of testing their ability.
The hesitation stems from probably a bit of, I feel a bit embarrassed to utilize it. And yeah, because sometimes I've heard a couple of actually colleagues who I think are outstanding speakers and writers. They'll say, we pop by the writing center, and it's not something that's openly discussed, but when it is discussed, you know, I'm thinking, wow, you know, to myself, even they are using the writing center, and when you listen to them and you write what you would never believe that they would come to the writing center, but it's just to show you that nobody is, you know, you're not an island. You do need other ideas.
I have not met anyone who can't improve their writing. So all of us should take every opportunity we can to improve our writing when we can. So when our writing faces new contexts that are unfamiliar with us, to have someone to assist you with the transition to this new context only makes sense. And that's why professional writers, most experienced writers, have other people read their work. They talk about their work with other people. So I think it's the same for the Writing Center. It doesn't matter how accomplished you are as a writer, you can still benefit from having someone to talk to. And if that someone is experienced at teaching writing and at writing instruction, that seems to me like a pretty good thing to do.
In the classroom, you can cover some general things that probably everybody needs.
Each situation is unique. Each writer is unique. That's why we see students individually. It wouldn't work any other way. Each writer has individual opportunities for improvement.
They try and match up. Like, so if you're a social science major, they try and find you an instructor that is a social science or that studies social science or along those lines. There's someone for everybody here. Like, there's someone for everybody.
It's not just about, you know, what I present to him. It's about developing me, you know, as a writer and my critical thinking.
The TAs who mark their work in a class tend to focus on grammatical issues. Give them feedback, oh, you know, your commas are all over the place, or, you know. And this is typically not very helpful for actually improving the writing process. Like, okay, but what do I do about these things? And in the one-to-one setting, you can talk about that. Well, how do you prepare for this? How do you do your research? When you're writing, do you do drafts? And so forth. So there's a lot of opportunity for dealing with the more of the process aspects of the work.
What we're doing is really an acceptance of the fact that the reality that writing is social, that writers don't sit in a dark room under a romantic desk lamp. They're not divinely inspired. Ideas don't come from out of nowhere. They're not sparks. They're not light bulbs. They come from interaction. Ideas come from talking to people. And that's what we're doing at the Writing Center.
Because you can do certain kinds of instruction in a class, and you can do peer, you know, correcting and response and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot you can do in a writing class. But in a one-to-one session, you can really get a sense of where the student's at in his or her own writing.
I have no power over my students when it's one-to-one, which is great because they don't have to fear me. They don't have to fear that I'm judging them. They get to say truly what they're scared of, and sometimes it's other professors.
Help students become independent writers. We're not necessarily focused on making the particular assignment that they're working on perfect. That assignment is an opportunity for us to help them to improve their writing in the long run.
We want to help them become better writers as much as we possibly can.
To help them gain more confidence in their writing, to help them express themselves, to communicate, and to realize that they're communicating with an audience.
What we're trying to do is to get them to become sort of like thinkers and to be able to communicate their thoughts and interactions and participate in sort of professional dialogue.
So the Writing Center helps students to take advantage of each learning opportunity afforded to them in their coursework on their way to getting this piece of paper, this degree. And it does so in ways that can broaden, deepen what they can get out of university education.
Not just writing is a primary thing for them, but relational skills. It's so integral that they continue to get people of that caliber in the center that, yes, we're great writers, but we are great people, because that is what makes this writing center, stand apart. And so, like I said, all the people there, from Peter to Roshan, to Stephanie, to Tilak, to James. I cannot, I'm just so pleased to have stumbled on such a treasure cove.
I think, well, I did mention the thing about family, and I do think that's really important. I think that I think of it as a really special group, and I think that it's a place that values teaching and students. I think that's always been our priority, and I think that's one of the things that I'm most proud of. Yeah.